sugar, spice, and everything nice. Uh-oh. Chemical X. The Powerpuff Girls are born!
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Sonic the Hedgehog here, aka the Blue Blur, aka Blue Justice. And don't forget me, Sonic, and I am the one and only Silver the Hedgehog here, and we are from the likes of the Mexi Toys videos. Originally, Shadow was also going to be included, but he can't be bothered able to actually do this particular playthrough, as you can tell. Yeah, I digress. And we are from the likes of the Mexi Toys videos, as you probably expect at this point in time. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll present to you our next new Let's Play for the channel. Except, no matter what though, we're going to be doing this on a special occasion. Because recently today is the 18th of November, so you know what that means? Happy 25th anniversary of the forms of the Powerpuff Girls. So, yeah, it's been 25 years ago since when the entire series has been first launched on Cartoon Network of all things. So, yeah, kudos to that I suppose, especially concerning for the fact that, personally speaking though, the original series is still a classic in my opinion, so as a result, unlike the actual 2016 reboot that I'm not a big fan of. So, yeah, I can honestly agree with you, Sonic, especially concerning for the fact that, honestly, that the amount of action while looking back on it though, it still looks impressive even to this day. So because of this though, for a special occasion, we're about to able to tackle through one of the two Powerpuff Girls games released on the Game Boy Advance. And the first one we're going to be able to tackle through, which is by the forms of, if you couldn't tell from the title screen for about a few seconds ago, we have decided to tackle through the Powerpuff Girls, Him and Seek first. Although, despite the fact that originally we were expected to able to do Mojo, Jojo, and Go-Go first, because technically this is actually the second Game Boy Advance Powerpuff Girls game. So because of this, yeah, relatively speaking though, Sonic, is about the fact that this game came out in 2002, whilst the previous one did came out in 2001. So because of that, yeah, despite we have to go for a weird order, but who knows about that, especially considering for the fact that I'm actually really looking forward to able to doing those particular games pretty much, because I know for a fact that the only reason why we have to do this, like we said before, is to able to celebrate the amazing original The Powerpuff Girls series back in 1998, specifically in November 18th, at least specifically for those of you lived in America. So because of that, and also right from the get-go, we're actually going to be able to have a choice between three different playable characters, as you can tell. So of course we're going to be starting things off with Blossom first, and then afterwards though we can pretty sure we can able to like take control of Bubbles and eventually Buttercup for last. So yeah, because as you can tell, the main emphasis on this game is all about fetch quests. So because of this though, as you can tell, we actually ended up in the forms of Oaks, I think is what it says anyway, despite the fact that it's been a very long while since we've seen a show. So because of that though, yeah, despite that however though, is that unlike My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, the Powerpuff Girls, specifically the original series, does seem able to have not only 6 seasons, but also with the forms of the movie adaptation as well. Well, mind you, it takes place as a prequel to the forms of the series itself. So because of that, and I felt it was a little bit weird, is that, potentially speaking of, is that I believe after Season 4 has been wrapped up, is that the movie did came out after the conclusion of Season 4, at least as far as I'm aware. So as a result, it feels very similar situation as the forms of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, where basically though, they somehow managed to finish up everything on Season 7, and then it releases the movie afterwards. So because of that, and before they hit on to Season 8 and 9, and roughly speaking though, in this particular Powerpuff Girls, the original series, did manage to able to get the 5th and the 6th season after the movie came out. So, and also technically speaking though, Sonic, there was also some occasional specials here and there. So, oh yeah, you know what I mean with the forms of Powerpuff Girls rule, which, kind of think about it, it does feature some cool references for time to time, which is specifically a reference something related to Mario Kart. Oh yeah, because it does manage to feature the green shell as the item, so that's actually quite intriguing. So So anyways though, as you can tell, we're going to be able to actually find specific items, as you can tell. Seriously, that kid over there does look like similar to the forms of how it does it for younger counterpart of Professor Egad. I have no idea why I say things like that, but relatively speaking though, as soon as we do somehow manage to able to find all of the toys, as you can tell, basically we guaranteed to able to get ourselves one of those scavenger hunt items. Specifically, we got ourselves the choke. So, even then though, as you can tell, if you manage to press the select button, it actually gives you a checklist to see what items you do get, and especially noticeable concerning for the fact that I believe we come across into the first boss fight. So because of that, I'm pretty sure every single bosses in the game is actually super duper easy because they have no standard chance, as you can tell sometimes. Even though, relatively speaking though, it's about the fact that we need to keep an eye on our health meter, because if you keep on beating up quite a few times, basically though, you will die, and luckily though, you do get infinite amount of lives. So because of that, expecting this is a kids game of course, so either way, that pretty much takes care of Blossom. So now let's move on to Bubbles, where basically we're now going to be transported into the zoo. So because of that, even though originally though, it's about the fact that we were originally trying to able to actually go ahead and do this by the forms of in sometime in next Tuesday and Thursday respectively. Although mind you though, Silver, is about the fact that, as we stated this before, hopefully we were able to actually do both of those games, well, specifically one we are doing right now, and as a result we'll do another one during at some point until next Tuesday and Thursday respectively, just to ensure for the fact that I can assure you is that those two games are going to be pretty short, so don't expect things too much for its entire length and everything. So obviously, if you couldn't tell on this zoo section, what we're going to be taking control of Bubbles with is that we need to able to take those animals into their safe spots, specifically the meerkats alongside with the forms of the lion and all the other animals in general. So, and also we need to watch out for those little pesky people, especially concerning for the fact that they always trying to able to beat you up at some point. So, and exponentially speaking though, luckily we do able to actually have to utilize these special abilities, like for instance with all that particular laser eyes, so we can potentially try to able to go ahead and use that particular attack wisely, because as you can tell, if you keep on utilizing your special move, or if you manage to able to hold down the A button, you can able to actually just do a bit of a dash maneuvering, and as a result, it does manage to cause your gauge to deplete. So, luckily though, the gauge will be filled once you pretty much already utilize the dash or anything else like that. So, expecting for this something for this point, Silver, is that this is going to be the fully 100% completion playthrough of the forms of the Powerpuff Girls, Him and Seek. So because of that, and to me though, it's about the fact that alongside with My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, I believe to me, the original Powerpuff Girls series is also one of our favorite franchises as well. Well, the only exception being is of course the actual terrible 2016 reboot, but that's just mainly because they messed up the entire animation style, and not only that, the action set pieces is not exactly the most frantic or not as fast as the forms of how it does in the original classic, and for what I can gather, that the original series does manage to able to incorporate some hardcore moments here and there, like the actual gore is actually involved, likely also when it comes to like dealing with certain monsters and all that stuff, and also has some very dark moments during the forms of one of those episodes. Like, if I recall correctly, one of those episodes in particular called let's just say Twisted Sister, where basically though they somehow created the fourth temporarily Powerpuff Girl, except no matter what though, that her name was Bunny. So because of that, concerning for the fact that that particular clothing that she wore, it appears to be purple. So because of that, and it does have a pretty dark moment at the end, so because of that, you probably know what I'm gonna talk about here. So because of that though, yeah, you probably most likely might be familiar with at this point, so either way, as we mentioned this before, is that, well, today's date, of course, there is the 18th of November today, in some cases in 2023 today. Naturally speaking, though, apart from the fact that we've been busy playing through Super Mario RPG on the Switch so far, and we are fell in love with it right away, especially considering for the fact that it's nice able to play the game on the go, and on top of that, I really do adore the actual remastered soundtrack, and because of that though, I'm just seriously looking forward to see what's new in store for us. Like, for instance, about the fact that, well, I suppose I think I've already mentioned about that during the course of the Sonic Frontiers playthrough so far, despite the fact that, like I said before, I need to take a break on that game for a while, is that, potentially speaking though, is that, it does seem able to have 3 save files as opposed to 4, so I'm not exactly sure why they've gone for this change, but regardless of anything else though, that's as far as we can able to think about this. So anyways, here's the next boss fight right here, so hopefully we should able to take him down. So either way though, there's not much explanations for the sake of time. Unfortunately though, we are pretty rusty if able to actually remember certain episodes of the original Powerpuff Girls series, because like we said this before, and I believe Maxi has already mentioned about this ever since the room tour video, back in during the forms of our 12th anniversary of this particular celebration of the Maxi Toys department, is that we haven't exactly got most of those Powerpuff Girls DVDs during that time. We only got one, and that's what appears to be the main event. So because of that, that's about it basically. Oh, alongside with the movie as well, but that's as far as saying goes, that's as far as we can able to think about this. So, but as you can tell, we've stumbled across into the first step of the playthrough, but that's just mainly because sometimes I will admit that right away, much like the forms of Castle Crushers, I will have to admit it though right away, the depth perception is not that great, but regardless of such though, we are trying our best if we're able to actually beat certain amount of those encounters or anything else like that, but regardless of such though, that's as far as we can able to think about it. So anyways, so now we're going to be able to take control of Buttercup, and as a result, we need able to go into, let's just say, the museum, basically. So, and then, I believe if we recall that correctly, Sonic, is that once we do finish up everything for the sake of the forms of the beginning portion of this playthrough, we can able to actually take control of not only 1, not only 2, but 3 Powerpuff Girls characters all in one particular part, and you probably know what I mean. And as a result, we're now going to be exploring into the museum, and basically all we have to do in this part is that we need to collect those gems. Oh jeez, could it be something very similar to the forms of Crash Bandicoot? Well, except the noticeable difference is there, is that getting those gems is actually really easy in this game, unlike Crash Bandicoot, that getting these gems is actually somewhat tricky, but other times a lot more, well, somewhat easy or more than other. So because of that, and don't even get me started on the forms of certain gems that we do need to get for the likes of Crash Bandicoot 4, it's about time, because relatively speaking though, it does manage to require for about, oh my god, 456 gems in order to able to actually see the entire true completionist. I mean, relatively speaking though, I was attempting to try and able to accomplish that, but I'm probably not going to do that anytime soon. So, although, by the way, one thing I will give this game some credit for, despite I did die, by the way, so as a result, I will admit, the graphics in this game looks pretty dang good, even on the Game Boy Advance game. Although I will admit though right away, this game does look a bit better than the forms of how it does on this Game Boy Color games, which I know for the fact that I've definitely heard about them, but for what I've managed to see the actual gameplay footage on those 3 Powerpuff Girls games on the Game Boy Color, they are not that great, especially considering for the fact that, well, first of all, the graphics do look a bit, well, kind of similar to an Atari kind of game. And second is that, potentially speaking though, I can assure you it does have a password system or something like that, or I may be wrong, but either way though, that's as far as I can usually think about it. Oh, and by the way, Silver, what is your favorite Powerpuff Girl member? Because my favorite one will have to be Buddy Forms of Blossom and Buttercup. And what's your favorite, Silver? Let's just say, I would say all 3 of them actually, so because of that, well, I don't know about you, although don't get me wrong, I do find Bubbles to be a pretty cute character, especially, conveniently enough, that she's actually voiced by Tara Strong, and that was before, when she voiced not only Melody from the likes of The Little Mermaid 2, Return to the Sea, and also same applies with the forms of Twilight Sparkle from, of course, My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, and you probably named the rest of it though. Oh, you're forgetting about something, aren't you? Oh, don't ever bring that up, because I will admit though right away, I think she also did a voice of, if I recall correctly, Nipples from the likes of Tom and Jerry The Magic Ring, and yeah, don't remind me on that part, because I'm not a big fan of that particular movie to me, because obviously it just feels kind of doesn't age very well, at least as far as I'm concerned. Especially that that was back in the day that basically I stumbled across into a Lazy Animation 101, likely for one of those characters, like the main cast, like as a result that one of those characters in particular, which appears to be, I'm not exactly sure what his name is though, because it's been donkey's years since I actually have last seen, you know, Tom and Jerry The Magic Ring on the VHS or DVD. I mean, let me tell you, I'm not gonna miss that much, so... But because of that though, yeah, as you can see, we're now going to be able to take control of not only one, but three Powerpuff Girls characters, all in one particular team kind of stuff. In fact, kind of think about it, it feels kind of similar to the forms of how it does it for one of those 3D games on the, well, at least one of them anyway, which appears to be on the GameCube and PlayStation 2, which I can't exactly know what the game's title was, especially concerning for the fact that if you couldn't tell already, we are now going to be exploring the rest of the Townsville. So because of that, and basically sometimes though we have to do some bit of side quests and stuff like that in order to able to actually get certain scavenger hunt items and stuff like that. I mean, relatively speaking though, like we said this before, this game is going to be pretty short. Even though the only time it feels a bit too lengthy for my part is, of course, trying to find specific items. So because of that, hopefully we'll try our best if we're able to actually go ahead and find most of the items in the entire playthrough, because I know for a fact that it might actually took about an hour to able to beat. So, oh wow, we ended up in a subway, huh? I mean, what is this, like a similar kind of concept as in Mortal Kombat? Except, well, obviously there's no need for violence if you couldn't tell, so... But anyway though, yeah, let's talk about the forms of today's topic at this point, is that ever since about a couple of days ago, is that potentially speaking though, well, I'm happy to report, happy 18th anniversary of the game's release of Mario Party 7, the final Mario Party game to be released on the Nintendo GameCube. So because of that, yeah, it seems kind of crazy kind of thinking about it, especially concerning for the fact that after all, we've already did manage to able to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Mario Party 5, after all, because concerning for the fact that that game has been out for, you know, 20 years ago, since 2003, so, but I digress. So, also, do you guys even remember that I mentioned about this briefly? Ever since during the forms have been... Oh, and by the way, in order to able to talk to this squirrel, you need to switch over to Bubbles, because apparently Bubbles loves to communicate with those animals and critters, so it kind of feels a bit similar personality as the forms of Fluttershy from the likes of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, by the way. So yeah, that's actually quite intriguing, so... Anyways though, as I was saying, do you guys even remember back in during the forms of some parts of Sonic Frontiers that I originally did say that we'll find out some more details about the forms of the Nintendo Switch game sales during the course of certain updates. Specifically, they'll eventually add in Super Mario Bros. Wonder during at some point on the February 2024. As it turns out, I was completely wrong about this, because, as it turns out, at this point, ever since during the forms have been, well, let's just say, actually, I can't think about this right now, because I know for a fact that it's been about a couple of hours since I actually mentioned something like this, but as a result, no matter what though, is that, as of the forms of the 29th of October, apparently, Super Mario Bros. Wonder is actually doing pretty good start, especially concerning for the fact that after 2 weeks, or possibly, few weeks ago at this point, especially concerning for the fact that so far that Super Mario Bros. Wonder has been sold for about 4.3 million copies sold, which to me is very impressive, especially concerning for the fact that we actually have a brand new 2D Mario game after so many years. So yeah, kudos to the forms of Super Mario Bros. Wonder, by the way, because still, that game is remarkable and also fantastic at the same time. So you can still, you know, recommend getting Super Mario Bros. Wonder, so because of that though, everything else will become to expect. So, Okay, so that's the only thing you can able to say about this at this point, Sonic, because it seems that I'm gonna be able to be most likely take control of the game right now, so, oh yeah, every once in a while though is about the fact that we need to beat certain amount of enemy encounters and stuff like that, usually certain monsters based off on the forms of the actual TV series as far as I'm concerned. Although luckily though, if you do manage able to beat the likes out of those monsters, as you can tell, basically though, those monsters, when you defeat them, they no longer gonna respawn if you manage able to kill them. So either way though, and it seems that so far we actually did found quite a few acorns around here, so at least the only thing I was really hoping for is that, potentially speaking though, I'm hoping the game does not lag or anything, because if you couldn't tell already, much like the forms of how it does it on certain other Let's Plays in the past, let's just say, ever since in Donkey Kong Country for the Game Boy Advance, in fact, kind of thinking about it, that was actually the last time we actually did something related to the Game Boy Advance game, believe it or not. Well, especially considering for the fact that I know that Ray did somehow already tackle for that game. Yeah, exactly. It's that, for what I've noticed, is that the fact that, well, ever since in, you know, as I said before, since Donkey Kong Country on the Game Boy Advance, we're gonna be players on the actual emulator because we were expecting to be able to actually get the original cartridge version of the game, but I can't afford it right now, especially considering for the fact that maybe we'll wait until during at some point in this year's Christmas, if possible. But either way though, again, time will tell. So either way, and also you do realize about the fact that we no longer have Bubbles with us, so yeah, because every time whenever you do manage to able to get knocked out or something like that, I believe you're pretty much gonna have to stuck with the forms of one last character. So yeah, for instance, we're now gonna be going on to the next boss fight, if you couldn't tell, and it looks like we sadly no longer have Buttercup with us. So yeah, I guess it's up to Blossom now. I think I would guarantee to able to get ourselves on yet another death, especially because, you know, sometimes the death perception feels a bit too tricky at times. Well, there goes another death. So, but luckily though, the checkpoints has been super generous because it actually respawns right into the beginning portion of the fight. So, however though, in addition with certain boss fights, there's going to be quite a few mini games we can able to interact with, specifically if you want to get yourselves a true completion throughout the game. But then again though, we'll pretty much have to save that particular topic if we do manage to able to come across into one of those mini games coming up. So, but I digress. So, yeah, I suppose that's as far as we can able to say about the forms of today's topic at this point. Well, I suppose the last thing I want to mention is that, well, for those of you probably wondering, for those of you living in North America, well, happy 11th anniversary of the game's system's release of the Nintendo Wii U. So, yeah, it's been 11 years since when the Wii U first came out, during the forms of in 2012, and despite the fact that nobody seemed able to play the Wii U anymore, just because not only that the Switch is now going to take over, but also no matter what though, is that, as we've already mentioned about this before, sadly, the online functionality will shut down, so yeah, it seems very upsetting, so, as we pretty much already expect, so, but I digress. So, yeah, that's as far as we can able to say about this, I guess. So yeah, let me know in the comments down below for the question of the day. What is your favorite character during the course of being the Powerpuff Girls? Do you like Blossom, do you like Bubbles, or do you like Buttercup? So let us know in the comments down below. So, yeah, because I'd like to hear your thoughts about it. So, okay, so in order able to actually access the disco thing, or in some cases DDR, basically we need to figure out the password. Or actually kind of think about it, I think there is actually a password item that we do need to able to obtain. So, oh yeah, kind of think about it, we actually meet up with the forms of one of the Bogeyman, or something like that. You know, with the forms of, I can't remember what the episode is called now, because again, it's been a very long while since I actually seen the cartoon like this, especially considering for the fact that at this point in time, that, we're still busy playing through some other games, you know, especially I'm still waiting for, you know, the 3rd season of Sonic Prime, and especially noticeable, we have to wait until the next couple of days for now, for the sake of the forms of the 6th and the final chapter, for the sake of Make Your Mark, which, again, don't expect things to be high expectations, I will admit though right away, because obviously, once we've basically finish up everything for the sake of the forms of, you know what I'm saying, with the My Little Pony Make Your Mark series, that I'll give everyone else some final thoughts of the entire series itself, or perhaps even maybe though, Sonic, you can probably be able to actually mention more about it if you decide to go back onto Sonic Frontiers until, you know, like you said before, until likely at the very end of November. So yeah, because as a result for this point, Silver, though, is that I'm pretty sure I'm almost finishing up the entire map scanning for the sake of the forms of the Final Horizon DLC update. And after that, though, I suppose I can probably be able to actually hit back onto the forms of the Swing of Things for the cyberspace segments, and oh boy, wish me luck on that part, because obviously those missions coming up, if I decide to go back onto... Oh, okay, so we have to dish out as many of those enemies as we could, and now we can able to actually go into the disco building. So, assuming if we find it, so... Oh, there it is right here. So, exponentially, we can able to actually do with a boogie dance. Specifically, we can able to actually go ahead and play DDR. Although, except the fact that we only going to be using some little amount of buttons, if you can tell. Likely also for A, B, and directional pad. So, with that being said, yeah, basically all you have to do in this particular minigame right here is that we need to beat the high score, and that's all you have to do. So, yeah, again, it's pretty self-explanatory. So, oh yeah, kind of thinking about it though, Sonic, is that I found it's a little bit more fascinating, is that one of those actors in particular who voiced Captain Gantu from the likes of Lilo and Stitch, well, apparently one of the actors was actually in the forms of one of those episodes in the Powerpuff Girls. Oh yeah, I think I've sort of noticing that right from the start, especially considering for the fact that, well, it is pretty strange to able to actually hear that voice to begin with, just before when Lilo and Stitch first came out on the big screen. So, yeah, it's actually pretty cool in my opinion. So, but as you can tell, it's about the fact that the more you're able to do perfects, greats, or anything else like that, basically it shows us the percentage of how far you've got into. So, but relatively speaking though, it's actually super duper easy. You know, think of like one of those rhythm side modes you can able to play on Mario Party Star Rush, except the fact that the actual button combinations is actually pure and simple, really. So, and the more you're trying to able to perfect, and not only you can able to actually just get some abundance of perfects and greats, basically the combos decide able to be activated. But if you manage able to go into okay, you lose your combo. But regardless of such though, you get some additional points. So, yeah, definitely a little bit easier as far as I'm usually concerned with, especially concerning for the fact that, again, it does kind of reminds me of DDR, except it's on the Game Boy Advance. So anyways, we're now on to the third and final round, and exponentially we can able to actually get one of those another items. So, again, there's not much else explanations for the sake of time, because relatively speaking, though, it's about from the fact that that's as far as we can able to discuss upon. Well, in regards of the forms of the history about the forms of the Powerpuff Girls in general, well, obviously we haven't exactly watched that particular cartoon, at least in every sense, in back in during the forms of in long time ago. At least you did tell me something for this point, Sonic. Yeah, especially considering for the fact that the only time we into the forms of the Powerpuff Girls potentially is our first look at the movie prequel, which as a result might give it a go, and as a result we do enjoy it, despite it's a shame that the movie did suffer the forms of some box office bombs or box office flops, so I have no idea why they managed able to give us the forms of a box office bomb to begin with during the forms of the movie's release. Perhaps it's maybe because of like, well, I don't want to explain any of these kind of stuff, especially considering for the fact that it just gives us a lot of, or potentially speaking, a lot of people seemed able to believe that, again, it's hard to explain, because, well, again, it's been a very long time since we actually watched something related to the Powerpuff Girls, because at this point we're pretty much used to with, you know what I'm saying, My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, because kind of thinking about it though, is that Lauren Frost did somehow manage able to create it the original series or something like that, which I think is actually pretty swell. So anyways, now let's go into the arcade, and because of that, there's another minigame we can play, and that's what appears to be, of course, pinball. And I apologize for that particular weird belch at this point, especially concerning because I still cannot help it for myself how much I absolutely adore eating those chili dogs. You are so obsessed with the forms of those chili dogs, aren't you, Sonic? And basically, we're not very great at pinball, just because no matter what though, no matter how many times we were expecting to able to actually just try to play well enough for those pinball segments, at least potentially speaking though, it might actually felt a bit slightly similar thing as the forms of how it does it for Sonic Frontiers in Chaos Island, where basically we have to complete the pinball machine in order to able to continue our progressioning, whilst in here, well, you can't able to actually beat the high score, and then you can able to actually get another collectible, but as a result, there's nothing else to say. So either way though, I guess that's that. So I believe something tells me is that we need to able to guide the ball onto the garage, but it's actually not as easy as it looks because it's all depending on RMG, likely for resulting during the forms of how the fact that we keep missing certain pinballs as far as I'm concerned, and yeah, we got able to restart, so. But if, again, I'm not really an expert of the forms of the pinball kind of things, especially concerning after the events of NES Remakes 1, and especially noticeable with Sonic Frontiers, that basically we're not very a master at the forms of pinball kind of guy, although we were expecting to able to actually just try to get Metroid Prime pinball at some point in the future, but that again, no, time will tell, so. But still, no matter what though, it's definitely not as easy as it looks, so. Especially concerning for the fact that, at least luckily though, we don't need to be able to actually go through with the ridiculous amount of points, likely also 1 million points, unlike the forms of how it does it on Sonic Frontiers. Like, that's insane, you know? Or that's absurd, so. But yeah, there goes our another attempt, so maybe third time's the charm, lucky, so. Oh, and by the way, something's worth noting for, if you keep beating up certain enemies, basically though, you will come across into certain hearts, where basically if you grab the heart, that actually restores your health, depending on what character you're going to be using. So it could be either be for Blossom, Bubbles, or Buttercup, depending on certain situations. So, but yeah, that's not much else I can say, so. And I believe there is also the Chemical X item, which I'm not exactly sure what that does, because I'm pretty sure it does manage to able to revive one of the Powerpuff Girls. So, at least as far as I'm guessing it correctly, mind you, we were expecting to look up on the manual, but of course, like we said this before, we haven't exactly got the original cartridge version of the game, just because, well, I just really want able to save up for Mario vs. Donkey Kong as a remake, you know? Yeah, I totally understand, especially concerning for the fact that at this point in time, that we were originally though, in terms of the forms of other Let's Plays for that regard, we were originally trying to able to actually tackle through WarioWare DIY, but I will admit though right away, that particular Let's Play is cancelled, mainly because of multiple factors. For one, we haven't touched this game for quite a long time, and second is that, well, much like the forms of how it does on Super Mario Maker, it's basically one of those educational editing kind of game or something like that. Although you can play certain micro games, don't get me wrong, but unfortunately though, ever since when the online thing has been shut down, at least ever since in during the forms have been 2014 or something like that, so yeah, it seems that at this point in time, the next WarioWare Let's Play we can able to tackle through, and that is WarioWare Get It Together and WarioWare Move It. So that'll be our next priority for the sake of the forms of the WarioWare retrospective of games, as far as I'm concerned. Although we were originally also trying to able to go through WarioWare Inc. Mega Party games, but unfortunately though, that particular Let's Play is being delayed until mainly, for instance, with next year or something. Well, mind you, it plays pretty much like the Game Boy Advance game, except you play the actual micro games on consoles. So, to be more specifically on the GameCube though. So, anyway, so we deliver the actual safety helmet, and that way we get ourselves safety goggles. So, yeah, I guess it's that. So yeah, those guys, specifically those enemies right there, doesn't stand a chance for the challenge. So, again, there's nothing right to say about that, I guess. So, I believe up there, that was when we meet up with Mojo Jojo, the main villain of every single Powerpuff Girls episodes, as far as I'm concerned. Well, then again, that unfortunately though, like we said this before, we have not experienced any of all of the episodes in Journey forms of the entire the Powerpuff Girls series, mainly because some of them are actually exclusive to America, and some of them are actually locked out behind region lockout system. So because of that, yeah, it seems kind of unfortunate, you know. Yeah, I was expecting for the fact that I was gonna able to search for something. Likely, for instance, is that I've seen one of those bits when the girls dislike broccoli, and as a result, that it can be well, it's a bit difficult to explain. So, but even then, yeah, chances are though, that's as far as we can able to talk about this, as far as I'm usually concerned with this point. Especially, no matter what though, that gee, I can't believe that we've almost getting close to the point where basically both Mighty and Ray are almost finishing up with Super Mario Bros. 4, Super Mario Bros. 3, and I'm almost finishing up with Sonic Frontiers, and maybe at some point we can able to actually tackle through the last fewer Let's Plays during the course of the towards the end corner for 2023 before we move on to 2024. So, but still, 2024 will be high expectations, especially considering for the fact that with certain films are still definitely coming for sure. Oh, I believe that. Oh, okay, so we did somehow found the all the acorns now. So I suppose we need to talk to the squirrel right now, and I think the only way we can do it is by, you know, change the character to Bubbles, and that way we should be able to actually accomplish that particular side quest. So, although I suppose I should probably also mention about this as well, is that this game heavily encourages you to able to do a lot of exploration for the sake of time, especially concerning for the fact that if you want to beat up certain bad guys or anything else like that, well, more power to you. So, now I'm pretty sure, Sonic, is that I'm pretty sure we actually on the halfway point in terms of the forms of the scavenger hunt list. So, yeah, again, it doesn't take that long to able to actually complete this game, especially considering for the fact that it probably took you about 1 hour to beat. Although, unlike the other game, that it does manage to able to encourage you to able to, like, it's hard to explain, because we were expecting to able to tackle for the other game, but then again, we'll have to wait. So, with that being said though, let's go ahead and find the next objective we can able to hop into. That's what appears to be none other than, well, I'm also able to double check on the zoo quickly, because if I was assuming correctly, there might be something in here, but I don't know, we'll just have to able to figure this out for ourselves. So, yeah, I suppose the actual thing we need to hit into next is that we need to head over to the jail cell. So with that being said, yeah, I suppose we're Mars ending stuff here. So join us next time for more of Let's Play of the Powerpuff Girls. Him and Seek for the Game Boy Advance is that we're going to be hit into the prison cell and we can able to investigate in here. So yeah, we'll see you guys until tomorrow. Later, fellas. See you guys then.